So I think we can start the meeting. I would like, dear colleagues, I would like to welcome Rose Cusso and Aikis Dogan in the today's seminar. I am very glad to have them in our seminars as we are collaborating together. It's a long time already, and I hope that this fruitful collaboration will continue in the future. And we have to precise in order as the video will be also uploaded, if you consent, of course, that the UMR Développement et Société, it is a collaborative institution of the Transmona project. And I believe that this, let's say, institutional collaboration made our research results more fruitful, and the interconnections also more fruitful. And I am also glad to have IKES in the broader team, let's say, of this project, as in my opinion, we cannot study the Greek economic history without the Turkish economic history, especially in this period of the interwar, the interwar years. Today's seminar, it is about the agency, let's say, of the international institutions. It is integrated in the second thematic cycle of our seminars, of the Transmona seminars. The second one is focusing especially on the role of the international institutions in global and national level, even in local level, and the know-how, the expertise produced by them. So I planned this meeting, today's meeting, so as precisely to develop our arguments about the role played by the institution, the international institutions of the interwar in general terms, but also in terms of the nation state, examined today by IKES for Turkey and by myself for Greece. Although all this perception, it is integrated, in fact, in an overall perception of the market organization during the interwar period, or the attempt so as the market to be organized by the international institutions, or in order to establish a global economic and monetary order. I have also to precise that this seminar is a preparatory one for the session that Transmona organized in the next World Economic History Conference in Paris, and the session is accepted. So we will have the opportunity to develop this problematic in a larger forum, let's say in Paris, and to listen to the arguments of the colleagues. So I will give immediately the floor, if we can say that, to Rose Cusso. Rose is a professor at Paris. She's also the director of the UMR Développement et Société. And with this quality also we are collaborating in the framework of the project, as it facilitated a little the administrative procedures. And Rose is a historian, but she's also sociologue. So she has also this let's say, the perspective of sociology concerning as concerns the role and the agency of international institutions. So, Rosé, thank you again for participating today in the seminar. And I hope that today's presentation, it will be also a step for the one forthcoming. I hope in presence in live next times. So we listen to you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Katarina. Glad to be there in this seminar and to present my research to you. Hope to have your comments. I'm gonna share the PowerPoint. So here it is. So the title of my presentation is Research Methods for International Statistical Activity, with a case study of the meeting of statistical officers of central banks, that it was in 1928. I'm going to talk about other activities, but this is the central one. So the contents of the presentation, I will start with, I will start by presenting my research objectives, then some words about the league, and I will discuss the its program for statistics on economics and finance. The fourth and fifth sections will focus on the league's attempt to harmonize monetary statistics. This is the core of the presentation. And then some conclusions to devote I will underline some points to facilitate the discussion and the references. Okay, so the objectives. The main objectives of the research presented today are: first, to contribute to global and transnational interwar historiography using international sources in statistics. To contribute through these international sources and statistics. Second, to outline a methodology to develop a methodology adapted to such an objective. I propose using an analysis of the relevant actors and their practices, as well as an analysis of the league's data. Actors, practices, and data, somehow. No? The basic idea is that international statistical programs have an impact on national policies through both actor participation and data comparability and use. Here, however, it is also important to recall that in the international cooperation process, country representatives are not passive actors. They may modify and even elude international goals. They can also develop mutual influences. This is also important for understanding geopolitical polarization, because it's not that global, that compact. The archival sources of the League make it possible to reconstitute the stages of international statistical programs. We find in these archives many of the pieces of the puzzle. To complete the picture, I also rely on my own experience as a statistician at UNESCO. Besides the characteristics of the programs, their description, we also have to capture the scope of the cooperation activities and to link them to what was happening at the state level. These are questions of method, how to link them, global and national. From my point of view, it is important to identify the role of the relevant people, the secretariat, the state representative, the expert, and their multi-scale action and decision. I had previously worked on this as regards the League's data on trade. This is something I have done with trade. With this presentation, I would like to further develop the methodological aspect and extend it to cover the League's monetary statistics. A few words on the League. It was created after the war. Its mission was to ensure that member states keep peaceful relations. Open international trade, for example, was meant to ensure good relations between countries. It was based on a liberal ideal that was later taken up by the World Trade Organization, open doors policy. Relying on the League's multilateralism, the Secretariat immediately saw technical cooperation as a way to support its missions. By producing similar, comparable, and comparable data on health issues, for example, cooperation participants will see such issues, health issues, through a similar prism. Data produces a common culture for health and for other things, of course. The economic and financial section produced the most comprehensive statistical program and technical cooperation in the League. This program was set up quickly set up quite quickly with the preparation of an international convention, including definitions designed to make national statistics on trade internationally comparable. These statistics were intended to help ascertain the extent of national reductions of customs barriers. So you measure trade to reduce barriers. Well, that was the general thing. The more trade there was, the fewer obstacles there were, in principle. So to prepare, that was some years ago, to prepare a seminar in 2016, I worked on member states' different reactions to this convention. Most new states, let's say new, Austria, Hungary, Poland, said that they wanted their data to be fully based on international definitions. Ireland, for instance, another country, promised to modify some national statistical operations. Some other countries criticized the definitions by the League. Finally, other countries wanted to keep their statistics as they were, but agreed to prepare harmonized data for the League. And that was the case of Switzerland, for instance. What about monetary statistics? What can be said about them? What kind of cooperation was initiated in this field? That's my point. I have started to work on 10 files right now. These include both small files of 5-10 pages or larger of more than 100 pages. Till now, I haven't come across any official responses similar to those analyzed with the trade statistics. I didn't find these official letters because the cooperation for monetary data differed essentially in its being based on bank participation. That's an interesting difference. The meeting. I have identified 5 several stages, 5 stages and aspects of the cooperation process for monetary questions, as well as several actors. The preparatory discussions, the letter of invitation for the meeting, the agenda, the participants, and the harmonized data produced. These are the stages for the monetary statistics. The stages I have identified by now. The first one, I'm looking for the time because it flies away. The preparatory discussions. In 1927, the Financial Committee already asked the Secretariat to study the question of improving monetary statistics. The Secretariat then exchanged views with the banks, an expert, another expert, and the banks were found to be ready to organize their statistical services in relation to international comparability. That's what they said, that they were going to adopt these definitions, common definitions. For the letter of invitation, the second stage, we find that the Loveday was the director of the section of the economic and financial section. He justified the cooperation on monetary data by mentioning that similar cooperation was already engaged on trade. He said that the initiative of this new cooperation on monetary statistics came from the Financial Committee, that the committee wanted a greater degree of comparability, and that they wanted this meeting to be held. The provisional agenda, please don't try to read that, just the bold words to see the extent of the data, of the items for the meeting, comparability of monetary statistics, markets, these exchange quotations, the centralization of the information, and so on. That was more or less the agenda. You have also, well, if we want to see this in detail, we can do it during the discussion. The participants, so here on the right of the slide, you have the meeting. So you have the list of the invited national banks: Austria, Bulgaria, Greece, Germany, Great Britain, the US, and maybe the Soviet Union, but I have to check if they came to the meeting finally. The participants, the other actors. I put this Greek actor because in this research I would like to further study some relevant league staff members, such as this person, Xenakis, to study his career, his role, and for other actors as well. He was member of the section for 12 years. And he had experience in the Smyrna branch, affiliated to the British Trade Corporation. He was simultaneously, it's a good example of an actor which was national, transnational, and international, or global actor. So this can be of interest. I don't know if some of you, Katerina, you know this person. I will be interested in your opinion on that. What about the statistics? the statistics produced on banks and non-financial issues. To study the statistics, to study what they produced, what was produced by the League, I think it's crucial for two main reasons. To establish whether the cooperation process really gave rise to international comparable data. And to study whether any such comparable data had any impact on policy. What do these figures on public debt, this is about public debt, tell us about the harmonization process? Are they really harmonized? That was one of the questions I can raise. Because when data is really international is when it can be an instrument, a policy instrument. And also, is this data proving, how can we check this harmonization? It's proving that it is harmonization. That's the list of countries indebted by stabilization loans, and the information about this percentage for the loan. Okay. Other questions that can be raised. Are these figures on prices of loans international comparable? What this comparison between Austria and Greece teaches us? What's the point to compare these countries? No? That's the interesting, important, I think, relevant questions to the topic. Because if you compare is to do something with the comparison. What else? This again. What did this comparison between Greece and Hungary add to the analysis of these figures on the cover ratio? What's the point of comparing cover ratios? Another thing. I can talk as well on the outputs of the leagues. This is one of the outputs, an international methodology of financial statistics. This was published in 1946. So this is going to be the basis of the work of the United Nations. Another output, a book on the international currency experience. This was published in 1944. And we clearly see in the that the stabilization of exchanges was one of the most important goals of this program, of this statistical program. But I need more, extra work, further work on the link between statistics and the goal. Hope you are going to help me in these questions. This was the appendix of this publication with this data comparing Germany and Greece from 1924 up to 1938 for the several countries. Okay, let's go to the conclusions. I have several points for the discussion. The research on the harmonization of monetary statistics carried out by the League of Nations may be useful for better understanding national policies, not only the similarities of these policies, but also their differences. Globalization is not always harmonization. Globalization is also about playing the same game, but not with the same players or with the same capacities. The statistical cooperation process can be studied through its progressive stages and its actors, their practices and their interaction. This is a methodological objective. How to link, how to put this together, how to understand the processes. There is a need for further research on banks' statistical services. What happens in the banks? To what extent did they reform their data in accord with international agreements? Was this meeting in 1928, was the meeting produced this kind of reforms? Maybe slowly, but something happened. Well, something didn't happen. As I saw with the trade statistics, as I said, they promised to change data, country representative engage, but banks, what about banks? How can we identify engagement of banks? Is an important. So these some of the points. Yeah, it is also necessary to better understand the meaning of monetary indicators and especially the effects of their being put into comparison. Did the leaks publication of the prices of loans have any impact on the relevant countries? On the markets? That's what I think Catalina suggested at the beginning. And finally, to understand international technical activity is also to understand global trends and their impact or lack of impact, as can be seen in recent times. We are now witnessing polarization. We are witnessing different strategies around monetary questions, markets, etc. So, what can international statistics teach us about these changes? Are these changes, or were these changes affecting as well these international statistics? It's not, I don't think that this process is from top down. It's a top-down process. It's more complex. So, okay, I have some references of my work. I work on the trade statistics. I've been working more generally about the section, economic and financial section, about the international statistics, even more generally, about other institutions, international institutions that failed to develop statistical programs. This is interesting as well. Why the labor statistics are weaker. And this is my second PhD to say it in a way. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm going to stop the share.
Thank you, Rosé. I'm trying to open also the video. Nice. Okay. Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. Maybe for the sake of the discussion, I would like to say that maybe we can distinguish two levels it's easily distinguished. I mean, the administrative level, or 2 or maybe more levels, the administrative level in the framework of the Link of Nations organization, where precisely some individuals play an important role, and we don't know. I mean, I didn't know that this Greek a member of the economic session. It's a paradigm. I know from the monetary conferences that we have, usually we have from the peripheral countries, we have participation of, let's say, not political subjects, less active in political sphere actors, more connected to the market, like precisely this person that you indicate. So we have this administrative level. We have also the statistical the side of statistical harmonization that we demonstrate to us, which is very, very important concerning the establishment of a global, or the effort, maybe we have to say the effort to establish an economic and monetary order in the interwar world, mainly in the interwar or Europe, I think. So we have this level, and we have also the aspect of the objective structures, let's say, because I cannot eliminate that. It is easily demonstrated from the statistics. But I will discuss that also in my paper, in my presentation. I have the feeling that they are not taking very much into consideration the existing asymmetry between the central countries, or let's say the more developed countries, and the peripheral or less developed countries. So those are some of the levels that we can distinguish, we can underline hearing this very interesting paper. And also there is the monetary factor, which I believe is not yet very elaborated by literature, not only in Greece less, but in an overall in the overall research. It's not very elaborated, and we don't have a lot of comparative elements. So in order to make these comparisons, those elements, the statistical data of the period, I think that they're really, really useful for us. And maybe I would like to say that it is useful for all the historians nowadays to read the literature of the interwar period, because they used this data for scientific reasons, of course. So this is an instrument, I mean, the bibliography parallel to the events, the scientific bibliography, of course. It is an instrument for us so as to understand the historical reality. It's a way to elaborate the comparison aspect, to do some more comparisons. So I believe that it could be instructive for us in the framework of the European Union, of the monetary European Union, to have a look in the monetary conditions of the 20s and 30s, because as they don't have an unique money, a unique currency, and each one works with its own national currency, but in the front of all of this, there is the gold exchange standard. So we have a monetary basis. The fact that they use the national currencies for the statistical purposes, it is an instrument to understand this asymmetry, which is not today. It's not easy. It's not so eloquent via the data based on the euro, on the unique, on the one currency in the euro area. So from many, I believe, from many perspectives, the statistical elaboration of the interwar in the framework of the Société des Nations, of the League of Nations, it gives us opportunities to understand today's reality. And there is another level that these approaches are also useful so as to understand from the historical point of view, the world, the European world, or the world, the global territory of the interwar. So I would like to, this was only some thoughts that your presentations make me think, make me formulate. And I would like to open maybe the floor to questions from our participants and the other members of the team, of the research team. Because maybe Michalis, who is working on the Eastern European statistical data, maybe he has some more detailed comments to make on statistics precisely. I don't know. Michalis?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Just a question to Rose. If she knows if there is a catalog of the editions of the League of Nations. If she knows if there is a catalog of the editions of the League of Nations.
Of the statistical editions, you mean?
Yes, yes, a yearbook. A yearbook. There was a yearbook and the bulletin, the bulletin, I don't know,
the yearbook.
The yearbook and something every, and a publication every 3 months on the statistical data. Yes. There was that, yes. And when when you have these data, you can see if there is some kind of harmonization or not, because you have metadata, the notes, the footnotes are very important to see if they harmonize them or not. But my question is, one of my question is, when you as historians of economy or economist historians, do you think that when an international institution harmonizes monetary data, what's the goal of that? I mean, when they harmonized trade data, the goal was very clear. They wanted the custom barriers go down. It was clear. I harmonized this data to show who are the good countries, the countries doing well, and which countries are not doing well as regards opening the trade.
Yeah, I think this was the purpose, to see the bad, the good ones. But also they wanted, I think, to harmonize the functioning of the gold exchange standard in global level, which they didn't achieve, no, because, of course. I think that this was the final target of them, to see how the gold exchange standard, its function and the problems that they had. But they had, in my perception, they had from the sources that I have already elaborated, they had an optimist point of view. So, okay, because all of them, they were people of the open market, they were entrepreneurs, etc. So they were optimists that the system going to work, which was not, with the Great Depression. For this reason, maybe I can refer that now because I eliminated from my presentation, so it's an occasion to say that. To say that in 1930, they decided, for these reasons, because of they have seen, after all this statistical work, I believe, they have seen that this system was not really functioning very well. So they decided to stop according any any international loans, or give their approval for the contraction of an international loan. And they decide to create a committee in order to examine the problems precisely of the actually of the gold standard functioning. They gave another name, but this was the purpose. So they have already understand, I believe, from the very early 30s, that this was not a successful enterprise. And for the Greek, because I study, okay, this sort of harmonization for the Greek case, and we can see that even before 1929, from the first months of the functioning of the Bank of Greece, the reserves went down, and they, oh, you are the bad ones, and you had these deficits in your accounts. And the Greeks, they responded, oh yes, because we don't have enough income from the migrants, we don't have enough income from the trade. This was because of the crisis, which it was not yet declared, but for the peripheral countries was already there from earlier, much earlier than September 1929. So this effort to harmonize, it was a bit overturned by the market itself, I believe. This is my opinion. I think for that they wanted to harmonize the data in order to have an objective, as they thought, perception of the gold standards functioning. But they had the optimist point of view. So it was.
But in 1944, still they insisted in this stable exchange.
Still, they insisted, yes, because
they
were persuaded. They had this perception, I believe, because all the from that I've seen in the, not in the section financial, but in the financial committee, all were people of the market, so they wanted the system to work for the profit.
So a question I would have, and it's me which was
I
have more in this work, this research I'm doing. What can be the most interesting for you for the project, this is something important for me.
Okay, yeah. First of all, as you know, it's the aspect, the administrative aspect, let's say administrative or institutional aspect. This is very interesting for for me and for the whole for the implementation of the whole project. In the second, and I am also, I think it's very interesting to showcase precisely how the institutions act and how the individuals are integrated as individuals in these procedures. And as you mentioned before about the invitation to the Soviets, I have one from the monetary conferences of the early 20s until this is okay for me. This was interesting because I want, if this was the case, I mean, if they participated really in the 1928 statistic meeting of the central banks, it's rather interesting because in the early 20s, the Soviets, the representatives of the Soviet government, they participated in the international monetary conferences. And usually they had some positions in favor of protectionism, like the Greeks and like other Eastern European countries. So this is an harmonization act, but from the other, let's say, from the other side, the opposition, let's say. So it's interesting for me to see if they are continuing to participate in those meetings in the late 20s, because in the committee, no, they are not there in the committee, in the financial committee, in the economic committee, neither. I haven't seen them in any other organ of the link. So it could be very interesting to see if they participated, nevertheless, in the specialized, let's say, meetings. It's a question. I mean, it's historical interest. But maybe we can say that the link has the data series of the Soviet economy during the 20s, and I think during the 30s also. Maybe they are not so. They are not so. We cannot have great confidence to them, but there are some series on the Soviet economy of the 20s and the 30s, which is interesting, but I don't know wherever any of us would have the time to make a special research on that, which could be interesting. So there are a lot of, I believe, a lot of things that there are really interesting from your research to our research, or maybe a common research. And the most interesting for me is the production of new principles. This is rather interesting. So
production of principles,
of new concepts, I would say,
and the way of
looking,
making them global.
Yes. And because there is this debate about, and maybe everybody can give his opinion on that, or her opinion on that. There is this debate that those are global institutions or multilateral institutions. This is, and as I have seen early, I think yesterday, in the site, in the internet site of the archives of the Link of Nations, they are pro to the term multilateral, lateral, or polysemic, etc. But I think global is a more competent, it's a more competent term to use, because if we say global, then the asymmetric function of all these organs or all these systems, it can be underlined. Otherwise, it means that there are several parties equal and they participated in the same organization, which was not I think was not the case, actually. And in fact, statistics demonstrate other questions.
I want to ask something very short. So they were sending invitations to the statistical institutes of the states or to the central banks?
To the central bank.
Okay.
The central banks, to the statistical services inside the central banks. But yeah, yes. So it was directly, they were directly invited. It was not through the Ministry of Finance or something like that. So the letters are very different as regards trade. Very different. It's they agree they will go, but you don't see very well the results. But I have to work for the further to do further research on that, because maybe there is something else. There are a lot of pages of archives, many pages.
Yes, I saw also from Turkish Central Bank, they shared also statistics in this program, but in 30s, not in 20s. So you are looking to the time period for the 20s.
For all the period that I just take the files, I try to identify the process. What's the next step? What happened with this meeting? Did they adopt the agenda? And then the banks started to send the data really harmonized, or it's to reconstruct all this, which is not easy, because the name of the files are not really describing all this. You have to look one by one, so it's quite, it takes time. So yes, and would be interesting in that is that you do, Keith, is interesting is how if the banks change their the way they work after the meeting, for instance. Okay, we are going to change our statistics. We are going to put everything on the like an international questionnaire or something like that. We are going to change the concept, the definition that that was what Katerina said. Are they adopting these definitions, these concepts, these tables, these calculations, and so on? That's the. This is more difficult because we need to work with the banks. And that's something that would need to go to to each bank. I don't know, Katerina, do you want to move on the
yes, maybe it's those are very interesting questions, and we can stay the whole evening to discuss all that.